Hey guys, I think I'm going to give you a little bit different perspective. It's going to be a little bit more on Cox Communication has one of the biggest Wi-Fi networks. We actually do a lot of Wi-Fi. I think bread and butter is Wi-Fi. So we'll give you that perspective, what we have done and what we think we need help in the industry from. So, okay, let's see which one. Operator error again. So Cox, it's a family-owned private network. It's divided into Cox Communications, Cox Auto, which is global, and then we have all the new ventures where basically we diversify our business. So I'm going to be talking a little bit on what we do in Cox Communications rather than Cox Auto. So if I literally look at it, what do we have? We basically bought Blueprint RF, which gave us a lot of hospitality network. So I think if we go to Las Vegas, Marriott, a lot of different chains, stadiums, we actually have managed Wi-Fi. So we do a lot of managed Wi-Fi, and that's our focus. And then we also do business Wi-Fi. So we manage Wi-Fi for a lot of enterprises and businesses, and that's a complete end-to-end solution, right? So we actually provide APs, we provide management on top of that, we deploy them, we deliver them, and then we also leverage our internet access so that it's a full, like 100% managed service from Cox. Now that also brings in a couple of things that we'll be talking towards the end. It brings in a little bit of, and I'm pretty sure the guys who are deploying Wi-Fi, especially around managed Wi-Fi, probably are aware of it too. It comes out to, we have multiple APs, multiple AP vendors. How do we all work together, right? That's a big problem for us because every time we have to come up with a AP vendor, we have to do everything vertically integrated. And some of our customers like one vendor compared to others. So we're not going to tell them, no, if you come to Cox, you're only going to get vendor A. So we basically try to support all the vendors depending on what a customer is asking for. And then we also have NOC services, internet circuits, and so on and so forth. So the other part of the business also is that we have about 4 million hotspots outside the business. That's how much we have deployed. And we also have outdoor Wi-Fi. And outdoor Wi-Fi is, we have all these, if you've ever seen cable companies, they have these thick strands that are hooked up. And what we do is we attach our Wi-Fi AP to the DOCSIS strand and then enable that to provide Wi-Fi everywhere, right? So all of our customers get access to the 4 million hotspots, plus all the outside hotspots. And in certain cases, we also support services for the same Cox customers, but in businesses. The other big growing business is MDUs, apartments. So we'll come in and we provide all the connectivity in an MDU. But not only just that, we also enable IoT connectivity. So that now if a renter comes in, you don't have to give keys, you don't have to rekey everything. Everything is done through IoT because it's all electronic locks. Electronically, we control all the AC units, everything else. So that whole thing is all done on Wi-Fi today. So what's working? I love 802.11. I think everyone out here loves that, right? It is working good. But as Malcolm said, we do have issues. So more spectrum. It's extremely important. We got 6 gig, we got a win out there. But then if you look at from industry perspective, 7 and 8 gig is now the next thing that we have to look and we have to fight for. Because why? Wi-Fi is singularly the bottleneck for high speed. Yes, we can do multi-gig and like high speeds and all the other things that are coming in with AX and so on and so forth. But if you look at what we provide from an internet perspective, we provide 1 gig, we provide 10, 15, like we're going to start looking at 20, 25 gig. So the bottleneck, most of the folks at home, even in the home, do not try to put an Ethernet jack. They connect through Wi-Fi. So guess what's the first thing that the calls come in? Oh, wait a minute, you gave me a 1 gig service and I can do more than 300 meg. That That part is all that we need to understand. How do we actually increase the performance of Wi-Fi to align with what the wirelines are going to give us, right? So then comes up on Wi-Fi 7, huge upgrade. A lot of things that we are really looking forward is how do we upgrade all our Wi-Fi towards Wi-Fi 7, right? So solutions, more integrated into operator dashboards. We need to understand what's really going on to the 4 million APs that we have, and that's expanding. And we are one of the cable companies. There are other cable companies that actually have bigger deployments than we have. So this is a universal, and I see Ahmed out there. So very frankly, Charter and Cox, we work very closely with each other as to what is the next frontier from a Wi-Fi perspective, right? Bring your own devices. We need to actually have more intelligent roaming. I think that's extremely important because we cannot build Wi-Fi everywhere. But between all the big enterprises, telecom service provider, they will Wi-Fi. How can we actually enable each other's Wi-Fi to give a better experience to our customers, right? Speed and spectrum. As I said, Wi-Fi is still the bottleneck. User demand is still increasing. I think Malcolm talked about AV. So one of the main reasons of AV is not that 4K or 2K, projection that you get when you have that headset on your ear. It's all the simultaneous spectrum, the data that has to come in so that when you move your head, you know that if it's a 2 millisecond delay, you're going to fall off and you're going to feel sick. That is the most important thing. And then you come up to 20 meg, 30 meg, 40 meg throughput is because all that subsequent data, secondary data, needs to be also delivered to the headset, right? That is an extremely important thing. More devices. The best thing about Wi-Fi is that we have the biggest ecosystem for devices. Every device, irrespective, you can go globally, can connect to a Wi-Fi hotspot. So there's that increasing amount of devices that need to connect with an increasing amount of traffic that they want to support. So more APs are being deployed, which inherently creates congestion and creates interference. So as Malcolm actually pointed out, we have to think about how do we actually reduce interference, especially in unmanaged. I think when we do managed Wi-Fi, we can do a pretty good job of controlling interference. It's all the unmanaged APs that just spring up. So more bandwidth, wider channels. What is the help that I need on the horizon? As I said, 6 gig, we won the battle. We want, as an industry, to go in and try to maximize what we can get for 7 and 8 gig. As I said, more and more and more is always going to be required. The other part that also Malcolm highlighted was, how do we become more like 3GPP? There are things that 3GPP goes and says, hey, Wi-Fi can't do this, Wi-Fi can't do that. But I know that inherently we can. It's how do we create that evolution so that we have deterministic throughput, we have deterministic connectivity, and we have deterministic ability to mitigate interference. So those are things that we do have to actually figure out how to do that. And there's a really good work that's going on with Wi-Fi 7, I think is great, but what's coming out in Wi-Fi 8? That'd be really good, right? The other thing is, yes, there's a chasm between 3GPP and Wi-Fi. As Ahmed knows, I'm an ex-3GPP guy. I worked for Ericsson for the longest time. I don't think so. There should be a rivalry. I think both of them work together. And the more we can work together, the better the value that we provide to our end customer. Because the end customer doesn't care whether he's connected to a cell or to a Wi-Fi. As long as they get the quality and to the user experience, they really don't care. So now, since I'm on the service provider side, one of the things that we are looking at is how do I make sure that the customer doesn't care what they're connected to? And that is the next slide that I'm going to go in, is what are the UE opportunities, right? So how do we actually figure in the UE how to make a decision? Should I connect to Wi-Fi? Should I connect to a cellular network? Or in sometimes, should I connect to both of them simultaneously to maximize the user experience? Because at the end of the day, user experience is the thing that everyone needs to focus on, right? So what are the algorithms that we can create in the UE to maximize, enhance that user experience, right? So network insights into congestion. This is really important. If I already know that my cellular network is congested and my Wi-Fi network is congested, maybe I can tell the UE to go and use both at the same time. So that when I mix both together, I have a better user experience and a differentiated service, right? But if I know that the Wi-Fi is congested at that point, should I even try the UE to try to connect to that Wi-Fi? Because guess what's the first thing that happens? When you get a bad experience on Wi-Fi, the customer picks up his phones and shuts down Wi-Fi. We don't want that happening, right? So experience visibility, native visibility to the UE experience. How can the UE actually tell us in the back office what is its user experience? So that we have algorithms and we have ways to increase the user experience, because that is how our customers are going to be delighted, right? Should be standards-based. And this is another thing that I'm going to come up. We have a lot of vertical silos, right? We have APs, and then we have controllers, and we have all these things. Guess what? Actually, you know what? Let me just go to the next one. This is the part I was trying to say. If you look at, that is my typical deployment at the top. And it's not because I want to use multiple APs, but our customers force us to use multiple APs because they have preferences. So guess what happens to me as a service provider? I have 3, 4, 5 sometimes vertically integrated solutions. That's extremely expensive, very expensive, and it actually forces me to say, I have a preferred AP vendor, and that's what I'm going to go to until someone forces me to go to other. So the big chains like the Sheratons of the world, the Marriotts of the world, the Hiltons of the world, they have their own preference. And since we have a huge business with them, we have to align and do that. So one of the things that I'm asking is, how can I actually, as an industry, we have to start thinking about how do I actually think about AP agnostic Wi-Fi deployment architecture? So that's extremely important. But only as an industry we can push and say that that is something that's required. Something that I learned back in the 3GPP days. It's so standardized, I can put any RAN, I can put any core, all work together, no issues, right? So something that we need to think about from a Wi-Fi side too. This is a huge problem for us. It costs us a lot of time to deliver. And I'm pretty sure Ahmed will agree with me, it costs us a lot of time in building up that vertical systems in the back end to support them. Provisioning, management, how do I actually connect them together? Then we have all the other issues about supply chain. So how do I actually get away? But in my view, if I can truly be AP agnostic, I don't have to think. Whoever gets the best thing, has the best AP product, we actually just deploy it. So there was a open Wi-Fi and all the stuff. There's a lot of things that are going on, but I think we as industry need to come together to say, how can I actually break these barriers, right? So the other part also is maybe as you see that the user plane, its scalability is completely independent of the control plane. So why should we not think about doing a user plane control plane split? So that I don't have to actually keep on growing the control plane to match up with the user plane. So if I keep them separate, I could centralize the control plane while the user plane is completely distributed everywhere. Something that we should think about, right? So what are the real benefits of all this? It's standards, simplification, usually lowers my implementation cost. Usually means I can build systems that give me a view of the entire network, not slices of the network. And that might that is extremely important for guys like Cox and the other MSOs, the other big, I mean, even guys like Boingo and all, because they have to look at millions of APs that they've deployed. And right now they are very, very fractured, right? Reduce operational complexity. One of the big benefits of Wi-Fi is that, hey, it's relatively very inexpensive. But then if you add up all the overheads and all the stuff, it becomes a little bit less enticing, right? So improve time to market. So what does that mean? So one of the things that I have to worry about is, oh, I'm going to come up with this new end-to-end feature, but then I have to figure out which vendor supports what. If I want to actually deploy it throughout my 4 or 6 million access points, I have to figure out what individual vendors support what. I can. And then what happens is it comes down to that lowest common denominator. So only features that I can deploy network-wide are the features that are deployed and supported by everyone, right? And then opportunity to enrich the vendor ecosystem. I think that's a huge one too. And questions? I mean, do you guys agree with that? I want to actually get some feedback from you guys.
There's one question there from Ahmed.
Yeah, Ahmed, I know him very well. Go ahead, Ahmed. Yeah, so again, open Wi-Fi was just an example, guys. I think it's one way. We just need to figure out as an industry, what do we think is the right way to go forward?
Yeah, so can we have microphone here, please? And by the way, this is as well, this convergence is critical for MNOs as well.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
The need for network densification is so high right now that is not a question of fixed broadband, is everyone.
Yeah, it's not fixed broadband, it's nothing. I mean, we are a MNO, right? Yeah. So it's so important for us because it gives us an ability to go beyond the 6 million, 8 million, 10 million APs that we deploy. We can manage them more holistically. Go ahead, Emin.
Yeah, thanks, Jess, for speaking on our behalf. You covered a lot of territory and gave a roadmap really to the industry. So really appreciate that very much. And I think there is some learning, differently from 3GPP and what trying to do. Similar problem existed back in the days, as you know, even in 3GPP, when you try to co-locate multiple RAN vendors in the same footprint, you pay penalty in performance. You can make them work, but at the expense of the performance, basically. So the industry is trying to solve that with ORAN, basically. So I think there is some learning there to get. And what it comes to is really virtualizing the access point, make the access point a DOM access point, honestly, a radio that's, basically radiates RF and sends RF and receives RF, and then virtualize everything to the cloud and put intelligence into the cloud, where you can have a way to plug any basically AP with a very tiny, client that sends and receives information from that AP in a very open standard way. And you manage all your intelligence in the cloud, whether that's security, authentication, interference management, profiling, all of that stuff. So, and I think the industry is not there yet, but I think the solution is definitely, obvious.
Yeah. So I think you're absolutely right, Ahmed. The industry is not there because we need APs, we need controllers, and the controllers do certain things. And with one vendor, they do X, Y, Z. With the second vendor, they use A, B, C. And then at the end of the day, we still have to integrate with a WAG and all the other things to provide managed services. But now I have 2 or 3 silos that come together in the back, but all those have to be integrated. And therefore, we have to figure out how do we work with all these vendors to make sure that we are providing value to all our APs and all our enterprise customers and so on and so forth, because they're looking for a lot of different things. So, and then as soon as you have controllers and then you have APs, then you get stuck that I have deployed this controller, so that's the only AP I can, because they don't work with each other. So I'm not saying that we have to have one God controller or anything else. I just want to say whatever controller we have, whatever APs that we have, we can plug and play them. That's basically what I'm saying.
There's one question here from Derek.
I think that the challenge is I agree with you in principle, but I think that the key thing is it's APIs. So it's less about one thing. It's about everybody makes APIs available. And then you have a way to plug into it all, because there's the different scenarios need different capabilities. And I don't want at one location, ultra wideband and Bluetooth and all the different features. I just need one. But in another place, I need all of that.
Yeah.
And so if we just agreed that everything should be API driven, then at least I have a way to
API
connect.
at what level? API from north of controller, API from the AP?
Everywhere.
Now
Everywhere. Right?
And need to be standardized as well.
Yeah.
So yes. The open ecosystem is the one that I'm talking about, because depending on certain vendors, you have zones and they define the zones differently compared to the other zones. And then I have to do all that planning in the back end. And then how does it actually work on a common code like the WAG and all? So that's where it becomes complicated. I'm not saying it can be done. I think we haven't thought through that way. And I think at this moment, the industry is mature enough to start having these discussions. I hope so.
Final question.
Yeah,
Sure.
sorry. I just wanted to say it's from our perspective, at least from our architecture, it's not just APIs. APIs in our world are from north to south, right? It's the streaming telemetry and the data model that's coming back up to feed the platform.
Yeah,
So it's a two-way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's and the point I want to make sure is we don't go down one path, because that's a path then we'll actually get bogged. And sorry, guys, your open Wi-Fi, I can get that. There are pros and cons for that too, by the way, right? Absolutely. The point is that as an industry, we need to come together and set some standards as to how we'll interwork with each other. Whether it's AP or it's APIs, whether it's open interfaces, whether it's standardized interfaces between APs and controllers and so on and so forth, I'm ambivalent to that.
Yeah, just
Very quick, last one. It needs to be the last one.
See, there you go. But we have multiple
config is
versions of
already-
open config too.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So,
saying.
As
Right before he had the mic, I said I totally agree.
Yep.
If we work on standardizing APIs and the communication between all these different devices and controllers
Yep.
and whatever, that's an easy way to start. Now, are all
You know
vendors open to doing that? Maybe, maybe not. But at least embracing something like open config
So the best thing
is
is,
an easy way to step into
Yeah.
it.
the best thing is if I've just started this conversation, I've been successful. So I don't think so. I came here to solve the problem. I'm just saying there is a problem. As an industry, we need to try to start thinking how to solve the problem. And this is a problem for me every day.
For many of this room.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
presentation. You made a great impact. Thank you.